In this video, we provide a lesson overview for lesson 10.2, which is about regression. These slides are based on slides provided by Pearson to accompany our textbook and then modified by me for our course. This is the 10th chapter in Essentials of Statistics, 6th edition by Mario Triola. In our course during the fall 2020 semester, we are covering two sections from chapter 10. First, we covered 10.1, which was about correlation, and in particular, linear correlation. In 10.2, we discuss linear regression. So here are our key concepts. In this lesson, we're going to present methods for finding the equation of a straight line that best fits the point in the scatter plot of paired sample data. This best fitting straight line is called the regression line, and its equation is called the regression equation. We'll talk about finding that regression equation, where it comes from and how it relates to the data itself. And then we will look at graphs of regression lines and see how well they fit our data sets. After discussing regression lines and regression equations and how to find regression equations and graph scatter plots and corresponding regression lines on those scatter plots, we'll also discuss marginal change. We'll discuss influential points and residual plots as tools for analyzing correlation and regression results. So we have 6 learning outcomes associated with lesson 10.2. The first learning outcome is about just regression in general. And here we are defining essential terminology, including the regression line and regression equation. We'll talk about the difference between a deterministic model and a probabilistic model, and the definitions of explanatory variables, predictor variables, independent variables, response variables, dependent variables, and then we'll define marginal change. And then toward the end of the video, we'll discuss the difference between correlation and regression. So this is really about the big picture, the terminology, and what exactly it is we're trying to do when we study regression. In our next learning outcome, we discuss the requirements for finding a regression equation. And then we discuss 3 methods for finding b sub 0 and b sub 1. Those are the coefficients in our linear regression equation. My hope is that by watching that video, you'll know the requirements for finding and using a regression equation. And then you'll know 3 different ways to find the equation itself. In our third learning outcome, we'll describe a strategy for finding the best predicted value of y given a particular x value. And then we'll apply that strategy to a couple of problems in our examples. In our fourth learning outcome, we define the terms outliers and influential points in the context of scatter plots. My hope is that after watching that video, you'll be able to determine whether a particular point is an outlier or an influential point when given a scatter plot, or when given a scatter plot and a regression line, and a different scatter plot with a regression line where that point is included or is not included. In our fifth learning outcome, we discuss residuals, and we finally define what it is we mean when we say that a line is a best fit line to that scatter plot. When we say it's a best fit line, what we mean is that it satisfies the least squares property. We describe that and we explain the relationship between residuals and the regression line. My hope is that after watching that video, you'll be able to describe in your own words what we mean when we say that a regression line is the line that best fits the data. And then in our last learning outcome, we define the residual plot and describe how we can use a residual plot to analyze correlation and regression results. Here we'll examine residual plots to determine if a regression equation is a good model, and then we'll explain what the residual plots actually suggest about the original paired data if the residual plots have certain characteristics. So that is the end of our discussion of the learning outcomes and key concepts for lesson 10.2. I'll see you in the first video when we'll discuss all of that essential terminology related to regression. That's about what it is we're doing, why we're doing it, the terminology involved, and the difference between correlation and regression, which is very important.